Hello, everyone, and welcome to Legends of the Big Ten. My name is Eldridge Recasner, and I'm the host. Legends of the Big Ten. Every week, I'm going to try to feature a Big Ten matchup. Today, I've got USC, who's going to play Washington tomorrow, December 7th. Like I said, my name is Eldridge Recasner. Back in the day, they used to call me L Dog back in my UW days because the University of Washington is known as the Huskies as well as the Dogs. I was a three-time All Pac-10 performer back then. I also made the All Pac-10 freshman team. I played at UW from 1985 to 1990. I redshirted my freshman year. I went on to play in the NBA. I had at the beginning a cup of coffee with the Denver Nuggets. After that, I played with the Houston Rockets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, and I ended my career with a cup of coffee with the Los Angeles Clippers. So I played in the NBA from 1995 to 2002. Today, I got a very special guest for you guys. He's a childhood friend. He was my high school teammate. You guys probably know him as the Pac-Man. Robert Pack literally jumped onto the scene in 1991 when he was with the Portland Trail Blazers. For all the folks that are Big Ten fans in the state of Oregon, for the people that's in Washington, I know damn well y'all remember him because he jumped all over the Sonics when he was with the Nuggets in 1994. And I got to tell this story, I'll never forget it. I had played over in Istanbul that year in Turkey for a team called Galatasaray. They're like the Lakers or the Celtics of Turkey. And I came home, I turned on the TV, and the first thing I saw was this guy that looked like this cat that I grew up with named Robert Pack flying over Sean Kemp and ducking all over him. And I said, damn, what the hell, man? But yeah, Robert Pack, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of you guys out there, especially the Big Ten fans, I know we're new to you guys, probably don't know who we are, but Robert Pack and I played in high school together. So before I let him say anything, I just want to go back because I can remember it like it was yesterday, but it was actually 40 years ago. I remember Michael Jordan had just did the Rock the Cradle dunk in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. So everybody in my neighborhood was trying to do the dunk, and I was at my high school, Alfred Lawless Senior High School, in the lower ninth ward of New Orleans, Louisiana, trying to practice the dunk in the gym. And in walks this man with his son, and it was Robert Pack Sr. and Robert Pack Jr. And Rob, I remember your dad saying something like, I said, well, who's that? Because Robert didn't live in our neighborhood, didn't grow up in the neighborhood, so I didn't know who he was. And I think your dad said something like, this is your starting point guard next year. So I started laughing, but man, I remember that day like it was yesterday. So everybody out there, I want you guys to welcome my high school teammate, a guy I'm very proud of, man, because I know you talk about starting at the bottom. Me and Rob started at the bottom. He went on, he played 13 years in the NBA for the Portland Trail Blazers, Denver Nuggets, Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Hornets at the time. He became a coach with the Pelicans, but I'm going to let him talk about his background a little bit because I don't know all the details about how he got to Lawless in the lower ninth ward because I do know he grew up on the West Bank, as we say in New Orleans, in the Fisher Housing Development. I know he went to Carr Junior High, but before that, I don't really know much. So, Rob, why don't you jump in, man, and just give us a little bit of background about how you got to the lower ninth ward of Lawless?
Well, man, first of all, it's good to see you, man, and good to be here. Good to be here on the show. Just to be able to have this conversation and talk about our upbringing and us playing together is definitely a pleasure to be here. Well, as far as me starting growing up on the West Bank initially in the Fisher housing projects, I was a football player. So if you ask most people if they had thought I had a career as a professional, they would have said football. I was a pretty good football player. Played all sports, but football was my first love, and I think just the aggression and the physicality that football brought about. I was always fast and was fearless, but I guess it kind of translated to the court once, especially during our times, and the game was physical. It wasn't wasn't a flagrant for a flagrant. You had to do something really, really flagrant to get a
Yep.
flagrant back then. So I guess that helped me as I continued to grow into the game, but my football background. And what people didn't know is I had spent so much time in the lower ninth ward, even though I wasn't there. My grandmother lived on what's called Tennessee Street. So I
Okay.
was always on the playgrounds in the lower ninth ward. So I knew a lot of basketball players in the park. I was familiar with everything before I even moved there. So going to Carl Junior High, I was, when we did move to the Ninth Ward, but people don't know that I was catching the bus from the lower Ninth Ward all the way to the West Bank to go to Carl Junior High. And you
Wow.
know that's a big
That's a
gap.
long
If
way.
people know about New Orleans, that's a long way to still be going, trying to go to your same junior high for 2 years, almost 2, 3 years. I was still taking that travel. But as ninth grade hit, my 10th grade year hit, I had some issues with some people didn't want me to go to a certain school on the West Bank. So some noise started, some rumblings came about. So my mom said, "You're going to Lawless." So I was already living in the Ninth Ward for 2, 3 years. And that's how I got to Lawless. I didn't know much about Lawless. No, I didn't know anything about the history of the school. I just know it was 6 blocks away from my house. I wasn't catching a whole lot of blocks. I was going to walk and I was going to figure it out. I felt confident in my game and I would figure it out once I got back there. You know how in neighborhoods in New Orleans, you grew up on the park, you're supposed to be the next. So I was going to have to figure a way to break that chain. Somebody was going to have to sit down and I was going to have to figure out a way to break into that. But that's what happened. Just started playing on the playgrounds with you guys. Guys started getting familiar with me, and then even at Lawless, I started on the football team. I didn't play football initially. I just played football, and we had we came into the gym like you said, and eventually, and it started off. I was on the JV. If you remember, I was playing JV. I wasn't even practicing with you guys on the varsity at first, and we scrimmaged against your varsity team in the JV, and I went crazy. And the next practice, I was trying to go practice with the JV again, and our high school coach, Mr. Wells, say, "No, you on this here, young fella." And that was it. I never saw JV again, and that's when you and I got to play and do some amazing things your senior year.
See, I don't remember that, Rob. I
Yeah,
remember you. Seemed like I remember you always playing with the varsity. Because I know when you did play pickup, one of the first things I noticed, man, is your tenacity on defense. And I think that intensity came from you playing football because you were hell to bring the ball up against, man. And I was so happy to see you because I really didn't want to play point.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted to play the off guard,
absolutely.
and score. So when
Yeah,
you got there, I was just super excited. But and then I didn't. It's funny. I've been knowing you for 40 years now, man. I never knew you were living in the Ninth Ward before you went to Lawless. So that's even news to me. So I know all the fans out there. I know they're already tripping because I don't think most people know that me and you played high school basketball together. And if I'm not mistaken, the only other set of teammates to make the NBA besides us is Avery Johnson and Donald Royal from St. Aug. I don't think there's two other teammates from the city of New Orleans that went on to make the NBA. There's quite a few guys that did
right.
play in the NBA, but I don't think teammates. So
Teammates.
I'm
Right.
proud of that,
And look,
man.
I never played JV. I only practiced with him one day, a few practice for a week and had that scrimmage that against you the varsity. And I never suited up for JV one game. I practiced with him for a week and coach was like, "No, you on this end, young fella." So I have no JV stats in the city of New Orleans.
Well,
That's
no, you came in,
yeah.
man, and you could play. Like I said, there wasn't no doubt about that. I think defensively though, that's the thing
Yeah.
I noticed first
Absolutely.
right off the bat. You would
Absolutely.
get up in the
Yeah.
cast, man. You would get steals. You had those long arms. You had those big hands.
Yeah.
Our high school days, man. For the
Yeah.
fans out there, I was a senior, so I was one of the best players in the city at the time. Me
Absolutely.
and Robert were 2 years apart, so Robert was a sophomore. But I remember Rob. We started off that season 16-2. And
Yeah.
we were rolling, man. And then I got hurt and
Yeah.
sprained my ankle real bad against McDonald
Yeah.
35, and it kind of
Yeah.
all went downhill from there. Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
yeah.
You were definitely on a better play in the city, man, and actually better than what you thought. It took you to get real mad before you go dunk on somebody, which was different from me. I wanted to dunk on, but as soon as I started dunking, I was trying to dunk.
Well,
But
you
it,
know,
it
we
took
didn't
you
have anybody.
once you got mad, it was over. Everybody was getting dunked on.
We didn't have anybody
So
to measure ourselves against, Rob, and I think that was
right,
the part of the problem, man. And that's
mhm,
one of the reasons, not last year, but 2 years ago, you came down and you were a coach in a camp that me and one of our teammates, well, one of my teammates, Randolph Davis, who was King of
yeah,
Zulu, started. But I think it's just important that the kids see us, man, and they think that they can make it because we made it. Because before us, I don't know of anybody from the Northern Light Ward that went on to play in the NBA or play any type of professional sport. So I really appreciate you being here, man, being on the show. Like I said, it's the first show, and I'm smiling because, man, I just remember how much time we put in, and to be honest, Rob, my dream was to play in the NBA, but I never actually thought that I would. I don't know how you feel about it, but
Yeah.
I never thought that I would make it to the NBA, you
Well,
know.
again, like I said, I thought I was going to be suiting up for some
Football.
NFL team, to be
Yeah.
honest, and
Yeah.
and once I took off in the basketball, and my speed and my athleticism started to take off, and started playing AAU and traveling, getting out the city and getting noticed, it became over a dream for me to play in the NBA. And we didn't have we had the Jazz for a little while,
Yep.
so we had to pick another team. So the Sixers, and in my bedroom, I would hang a hanger on the back of the door, and my room was a Spectrum. So that's when, seeing Cheeks and Dr. J and all those, and those things starting, kids have dreams. We had nobody locally to see, nobody before us made it. So we was kind of looking at other people. But like you said, kids can look at us now, and that's why it's important for us to continue to go back and speak to these kids, and have an impact on their vision, because sometimes they see us and see that we walk the same grounds, same high schools, and they can see that there's a possibility for themselves out there.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think that's really important, man. Like I said, I just remember the grind, man. I remember us being on Richard Lee Playground and
Yeah.
Cashman Playground, and I think I talked to you last week. I remember you and a guy named Malcolm Parker, who's your teammate in high school.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
guys,
Yeah.
I just every time I pass Rusher Blade and Sharp that street, man, you guys were
Yeah.
out there hooping it up. But some fun times.
On the
Obviously,
pole,
I
on the
left.
pole, not on the goal. Don't let people think it was a basketball court.
No, it was a
It was a
pole. It was
pole, a
an
light
electrical
pole
pole
with the
that
electrical
had a
pole.
hoop put on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
man. Yeah, we were ghetto fabulous, Rob. I ain't gonna,
Yes,
I
sir.
ain't gonna lie.
Yes, sir.
We were ghetto
Yeah.
fabulous, man. So let's move ahead a little bit. I ended up going to the University of Washington, so I didn't see you play after that, but I knew you were the man because I heard about it. There's a legendary
Yeah.
game that I remember you and a guy named Tim Singleton, who everybody called World, in New Orleans in the lower ninth ward, who went on to play college basketball at Notre Dame. He did not play in the NBA, but I remember you guys playing in high school, and I remember hearing about how you gave him the business. But let's just tell everybody a little bit about how you got to USC. I know you went to Tyler Community
Yes.
Junior College first, but give the viewers a little bit of background on how you got to USC, because you did not come right out of high school and go to USC.
No, I came out of high school, and went to Tyler Junior College. I felt like my recruiting could have been better coming out. I broke my right hand my senior year, just like you had an injury your senior year, and I just felt like it
But hold on,
definitely.
let's stop right there, because
Right.
when you gave Carver 38, I heard it was with the broken hand. How the hell
Well,
did you
well, well.
score 38 points with a broken
I
hand?
no, I gave Landry the business with the broke hand,
Okay,
which
all
was a
right, it was
school
Landry.
that I was supposed to go to from growing up.
Was it your
I
right
played
hand or was it your left hand?
with my right hand. I broke my hand in PE during lunch. Went to the hospital. They wanted to put a cast. I left the hospital. Said no, I have a game tonight. I can't. I remember that the doctor was coming after me, and I left the hospital. Played in the game, and beat Landry with a broken hand,
Wow.
right hand. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
man, that's
So
that's that's
I had
crazy,
to play,
Rob.
man. I had to play. It was Landry. If people know,
Yeah, rivalry.
from a
That's
high
where you
school,
grew
I
up.
grew up
Yep.
there. All my
Now,
boys I
now
grew
was
up with in the
Landry the high school you
project.
would have attended if you didn't come to Lawless?
I would have. I
Yeah,
would have.
because
Yes,
that's the
I
school
would
right
have
across the
attended.
street from you and the school in your district.
Absolutely. And
That's
all the guys I grew up with from kindergarten, first, third grade. So to go back then in the play, it was a big game. So not letting them know my hand was broken was big. But once the game was over and they knew, they say they wish they knew my hand was broken.
now that's amazing, man. I can't imagine you. And you had 38 against Landry.
No, no, that 38 was in Carver, in the
Okay.
dungeon, which is Carver. If people know Carver, that gym, it was only one way in, one way out.
Yep.
It was their tournament, and fun thing about that, Digger Phelps and his assistant was in there to watch Tim, who had signed with them early. And I remember Coach John Shoemate told
Yep.
me later,
John
he said I
Shoemate.
almost got him fired because they were coming to see Tim, and I gave him 38 in that gym.
Yep.
Digger Phelps almost fired him on the spot. He said.
You know what's crazy, Rob? As I sit here now and think about it, man, I think you probably could have made the NFL as well. There ain't no doubt in my mind because you had that tenacity, man. I mean, you were young because 12th grade and 10th grade back then was a big difference. But I could just see the passion and the killer instinct in you, man. And it wouldn't have surprised me at all if you didn't make it to the NBA. You probably, if you would have played college football, there ain't no doubt in my mind. Because what position did you play?
I played free safety. I played quarterback, free safety, wide receiver there. But for me, I felt like free safety was my spot. And I got to SC, and Larry Smith, actually, who was at Tulane when you and I were coming up, he was the coach. He actually was the coach at USC. Would stop me and tell me when I was going to come out and play football for him at SC. But George Ravlin wasn't having that. I knew that wasn't. I was his starting point guard. I knew that wasn't going to happen. But I was there with. I was such a football fan, and I was football was my first love. And being there with, God rest his soul, Junior Seau, Mark Carrier, and all those guys, and
Wow.
watching them play. So me
Yeah.
to go to their games was a big deal for me because I love the game and just the idea of me having the chance to probably play with them. I always thought about it though, but being there on a basketball scholarship, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, man, it really wouldn't have surprised me. And I kind of remember you being a corner. Like I said, those long
Yeah,
arms, those big hands. You
yeah.
were tough, man. So you end up at Tyler Junior College, and tell the viewers how you ended up at USC because I remember you reaching out to me when you were at Tyler. You said, "Hey, look, man, I got Washington State recruit me, and I got USC recruit me. What do you think I should go?" And I was like, "Come on, man, that's a no-brainer."
Right.
LA, you got all the eyeballs on you. But tell the viewers how you ended up getting SC, and then ended up playing for the legendary coach there. He's got the "I Have a Dream" speech by Dr. King, man, which is
Absolutely.
absolutely amazing. But tell the viewers a little bit about how you ended up at SC.
Well, when I first of all, when I walked into junior college, I went there with the mindset that I was coming out of here. I was going to get recruited the way I felt, and that was the approach. A lot of guys understand junior college is really really tough, especially during that time. My conference had Larry Johnson in it, Carl Herrera. Like
That
we
was me,
all were in
yeah.
junior college
Yep.
at times. So you talk about the number one pick in the draft and Larry Johnson. We were in junior college together,
Odessa,
so that
Odessa
conference.
Junior College, right? Yep.
Yeah, junior college was tough. So you go in there and you're not thinking about really going hard. It was going to be tough. And my mindset when I went as a freshman starting was to come out of there and be recruited the way I thought I should have been out of high school. And that approach really helped me. I was one of the top point guards, all conference point guard, all state, all Texas All Star coming out of junior college, and one of the more highly recruited guards coming out. And it came down to Florida, Tulane, a lot of schools, but meeting Coach Rav and him talking about his plans for me more off the court and as a development me as a young man. It was really important to me, and it's a lot of things that he's taught me and continue to this day teach me. I live by it and I stick to it and hold on to a lot of those things. And I think that was one of the best decisions I made to sign with USC. And and from an academic standpoint, understanding what that would be, going to an institution like USC for academics, all of that was important to me when I was coming out. So that made the decision easy. Having Coach Rav there, and it was a great experience, and it's one that I'm glad I made.
You made it a point to say that you felt like you were disrespected and under recruited, and I just got to share this story, man, because it's still amazing to me. I remember when you were at Tyler, and a guy from when I first met him, he was an assistant coach at Cal, and that's Todd Bozeman. Now I thought
Yeah,
Todd was at Southeastern Louisiana, but you said Todd was the assistant coach for Perry Clark at Tulane. So I remember being home one summer, and me and you were hanging out, and everywhere we went, man, Todd was there. Trying to convince you to come to Tulane. I thought it was Southeastern, so I kept telling Todd, man, he ain't coming to no damn Southeastern to play for
yeah,
you. So whatever your mission was when you were at Tyler, Rob, you obviously achieved it because, ladies and gentlemen, I swear to God, wherever we went in New Orleans that night, we were in nightclubs, we were everywhere because we were excited. We were college kids home. Todd Bozeman followed us everywhere. Every time we turned around, Todd was right there talking about, "Come on, Rob, sign with us, man." So that's a funny story, man. I'm
Todd
gonna
was my
go into
man.
this.
He
I'm,
did a
I'm
good
a,
job. He did a
huh?
good job. He
Good
was
job. He did a
Todd.
great job.
He did a great
He did a
job,
great
man. It
job.
just when
He
that
did a great
recruitment
job.
is tough, and the only thing at the time Tulane was just starting back up.
Yep.
that been on the probation for such a long time. And coming out of junior college is different from coming from high school. You're not looking at 4 years. I've got 2 years to get it done, get my degree, and also put myself in position to possibly, be seen by the people that need to see you to get to the NBA. So it was tough. Home would have been great to be home at Tulane, but I think I made a great decision going to USC.
I don't know if you know this, Rob, but Tulane offered me. They offered me. I graduated in '85, so I graduated before they got put on probation. For our viewers out there that don't know the University of Tulane Green Wave story, back in 1985, they had a great player named Hot Rod Williams that went on to the NBA to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They got caught up in a point shaving scandal and they got the death penalty. So I think from 1985 to maybe 1989, 90, they didn't have a basketball program at all. But Tulane recruited me as well, Rob. But I was trying to get away, and
Right.
I was supposed to go to Louisiana Tech and play for a guy named Andy Russo. He had a guy named Carl Malone. They kept telling me, "You want to come here?" I was also being recruited by Creighton, who was coached by the great Willis Reed, and had a guy named Benoit Benjamin, who I know a lot of NBA fans will remember. And Creighton kept telling me, "You don't want to go to Tech because Carl Malone is going pro," and Tech kept telling me, "You don't want to go to Creighton because Benoit Benjamin is going pro," and they
He's
both
going
went
pro.
pro.
Right.
So if I went to either
Yeah.
school, I wouldn't have had a chance to play with any one of them. But I ended up coming to the University of Washington, and now I want to translate into the Pac-10 in our days.
Before we
I,
start, before we start, before
yep,
we start, just I need the fans to know, right?
yep,
When you talk about you was recruited by Creighton with the great Willis Reed,
yep,
I never forget. And you talk about when you think about getting recruited, you were being recruited as a senior. I was a sophomore. We played in Landry tournament. We beat Walker, Jonathan Edwards. We went
Jonathan
down the
Edwards, yeah,
lane, dunked
Georgetown,
on
yep.
him, and the whole thing. But Willis Reed was in the gym. He came to watch. That was one of the games he
Yep,
came to
I
watch
remember
for you.
that.
He
Yep,
he was he
yep,
was he was in the gym,
yep.
and it was two incidents that him being in that gym as well as him me watching him on TV when I was young. My dad made me sit down and watch the game when he recruited Benoit Benjamin. They won the championship. I saw him on TV, and I remember at that moment I said, I'm people are going to be in the gym for me like that. But that was he was coming to see you. And I remember seeing him. I knew who he was from the NBA in the great 1969 and the walkout with the broke ankle and everything. And that was one of the driving forces for me. And we talk about these kids seeing other people that we know. I saw you getting recruited like that. And the great Willis Reed being in the gym for you. And it made me want to work and inspired me, made me want to work. And I said, people will be in the gym for me like that one day. And I just had to get that in. You were an inspiration with me, man, as a sophomore, seeing you get recruited and people being in the gym for you. So that was something that pushed me as well.
No, I appreciate that, Robin, and I remember that, man, dunking on big Jonathan Edwards, who was 6 foot
Yeah,
nine.
yeah,
Jonathan went on to play at Georgetown, didn't play in the NBA. But
yeah.
yeah, just some. I think I told you this in our phone conversation, man. I think the most fun I've ever had with basketball was probably my junior year in high school. When we had a guy named Juan Hall, Johnny Reagan, Isidore Stewart, Linus Jenkins, Randolph Davis, Terrence Grant, Thomas Lloyd, Ricky Cordova. That was before you got there, but we had a squad, man. We just couldn't beat this school called Booker T, man. But great memories. Willis passed away a couple years ago, and I actually had a chance to go to his funeral at Grambling State University because I had a lot of respect for Willis. I'll never forget, Rob, when he walked into my house on Galvin Street, man. I thought my dad was gonna pass out when he saw Willis Reed, man,
Yeah,
because my dad knew that I liked basketball, but I don't
right.
think he had. I don't know about your dad, Mr. Pack, but I don't think my
No.
dad had any idea how good I was. And I
Hmm.
remember coming home one day and he was reading the paper, and my name was all over the paper, and he kept looking at me, and he kept looking at the paper, and he kept looking at me, and he kept looking at, and I was like, "Yeah, Dad, that's me, man. I'm pretty good." So when Willis Reed came in the house, I think that solidified everything for him, and he said, "Damn, my son must really be able to play." So yeah, that was one of the highlights of my childhood, man, meeting Willis Reed and having him come from the New York Knicks champion, NBA 50 all-time greatest players to come into the lower ninth ward, man. That was special. Yeah.
That was big. That was
Yep.
big.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
All right, we're gonna translate over to USC now. I gotta ask you this question, and God damn it, I already know what you're gonna say, but I gotta ask you. So we're supposed to be previewing USC at UW, which is gonna take place tomorrow here in Seattle at Emerson Pavilion. both of those teams, for the viewers that are watching and listening, new to the Big Ten. This is the first year that USC and UW are in the Big Ten, and this is the first home game for UW. They're hosting USC tomorrow. So Rob, I just got to ask you, what's your favorite memory of playing at USC against UW?
Playing at USC against UW. I'm sure you know the answer to this. So, well, let me just set it up first, right? So, when as a sophomore, you mentioned my guy Malcolm Parker,
Yep.
backcourt mate, and we were playing in the gym. So we playing 2 against 1. Eldridge is playing against Malcolm and I, and we're playing, and he's playing. We double teaming him and everything. So Eldridge sets us up one way, throws the ball off the backboard, runs around and catches and dunks on both of us. Man, you don't understand how hot I was, right? I'm so competitive, and I couldn't dunk at that time. I was a sophomore. I couldn't dunk. I was letting run, but I wasn't dunking yet. I was like, man, and he's gone. I don't get a chance to dunk. He's gone. He's leaving. I don't get a chance to dunk, but everybody else is going to get it for what he did. Lo and behold, I signed with the USC. We get to play UW. I get to play against Eldridge again. So happened, I get a steal on the break.
Yep.
Eldridge is running, trying to track me down. He jumps, and I jump. I think he thought I was still 10th grade, Rob. And I jump, and I take off, and I dunk on Eldridge. Man, nobody knew that dunk was bigger than just that those 2 points I got in that game.
I knew.
That was from way back from high school when he got me in the gym practicing and dunked on me and my guys. So that was for me and Malcolm. Back to you. So that was definitely one of the moments playing against you. You guys were good. You were the man in the conference, and to be able to compete again against my high school teammate and to get that dunk. And I remember we walking off the court. The game was over. That's when you could still walk out the same tunnel together. You grabbed me and said, man, why you dunk on me? I never forget after the game. So that was big, man.
Yeah, man. It's funny, Rob. I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I think your mom was at the game. I think your family might have moved up to Tacoma by that point from New Orleans.
Yeah.
But I know your mom was at the game, and I couldn't believe it because it's not like I didn't know you couldn't dunk at that point, but I remember trying to chase you down, but I didn't think you was gonna dunk it. And then when I jumped, I said, "Oh hell, this is a bad decision." But yeah, you got me, man. So I knew without a doubt that would be your favorite memory of playing against the UW. And I ain't mad about it, man, because once we fast forward and start talking about the NBA, whoo, you dunked on a whole lot of people. But just talk about to me your favorite moment overall at USC and what USC meant to you, because now that I'm an adult, Rob, I've had 2 daughters that went to USC. One graduated and one's a senior this year. But back in 1985, 1990, I had no idea SC was such a prestigious academic institution, and people would cut off their left leg and pay $500,000 to get their kid in there. So just tell the viewers a little bit about what USC meant to you and what's your fondest memory, not just basketball, but what's your fondest memory of being at SC, period?
Just being able to go to the school, and I'd always thought about being a football player. I watched the Rose Bowls, Charles White, and Marcus Allen. I had seen all those games, so to be there playing basketball was different. But to be able to be at that school and walk that campus, and to be able to fulfill the dream of graduating from college, being the first one in my family to graduate from college, that was huge. I knew when I left, I wasn't leaving. I left home. I wasn't leaving the university without a degree, and that was something that was really special. And Coach Rav holding to his promise when he came to the Ninth Ward. You talk about Willis Reed, Coach Rav coming to the Ninth Ward in my grandmother's house and talking to them and telling my mom he didn't speak about basketball. He talked about education and life and how I would graduate. And to be able for all that to come to fruition, to be able to graduate, that's one of my proudest moments. I had great teammates, Dwayne Cooper, Kelvin Banks, Ronnie Coleman, James Sanders, Tyrone Cooper, Tyrone Fuller, Cordell Robinson, a lot of great teammates had special moments with. Um,
You didn't mention Baby Jordan, Harold Miner.
oh no, absolutely, Harold
You were
Miner.
mentioning
In
you
my head, I'm
wanted to
Harold
have on the
Miner.
show
I'm
with
a
you,
good.
but couldn't get in touch with him.
Oh man, Harold Miner, amazing player. I have so many memories of all those guys. But just to be able to graduate from that school and go to class and just coming from where we came from and to be able to graduate from a prestigious academic school like USC was definitely one of my proudest moments. And playing for Coach Rav has always been a highlight of my basketball career.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, he's talking about George Raveling, a longtime coach at Washington State University, and then of course at USC, longtime executive at Nike. Like I mentioned, George Raveling was working security, if I'm not mistaken, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
at the Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech, and after
Yes.
Dr. King gave his speech, he gave his speech to George Raveling, who still has it to this day. So I think that's amazing. Now Rob
Yeah.
dunked on me, y'all, but I got to just get this in there because I'm not gonna let him get the upper edge on me twice. But I used to give SC the business back in the day. So before Clark and Harold Miner got there,
Yeah.
I used to kill them
Yeah.
other cats. And I even think that game I might have been 8 for 8 from the field, 4 for 4 from
You
the
may
free throw
have.
line.
No, I don't remember any of it, but all I remember is the dunk. But you may have. You may have had 30. I don't. You may have had 30. All I remember is the dunk.
Yeah, man. So some great memories
Yeah.
of playing against SC back then. Right
Yeah.
today, USC plays in the Galen Center, but back then they were in the sports arena.
Oh,
They didn't get a
right.
lot of fans at the game, even though George Raveling was one of the legendary coaches. But it's a game that I always look forward to because you got a chance to go to LA. You know, you got a chance to go to Aunt Kizzy's back porch. Back then, that was in Marina
Yeah.
Del Rey. It was always about 80 degrees, even if it was the wintertime. So that was great. We got to talk about the game a little bit, Rob, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. I don't know how much you follow SC, but you guys got a whole new squad. I think there's one player returning. You got a coach that both me and you are familiar with, Eric Musselman. And I don't know if you know this, Rob, but there's two guys on the UW on the SC staff that played for the UW and Will Conroy and Quincy Pondexter. So
Right.
I know that whole staff really well. Like I said, I got two daughters that went to SC, so I know the campus really well. They lost Bronny James. I'm not gonna get into that. I don't know how you feel about Bronny getting drafted. I didn't really think that he earned it, but he is LeBron's son. There's a kid named Isaiah Collier. I just love his game. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got picked up by the Utah Jazz in the draft this year. Then they had another kid, another guard named Boogie Ellis, but they lost pretty much all of their players. How much do you keep up with them, Rob? And what kind of damage you think they're gonna do in the Big Ten in their first season?
Well, I try to tune in. Like you say, I've met Coach Musselman back at Arkansas as well as SC. I took some kids to campus and I got to spend a little time with him and Quincy and Will as well. So, saw those guys when I was on campus during the summer. Obviously, a good staff
Yeah.
from recruiting and getting good players. And when you talk about Quincy and Will being in the Seattle area, I think SC has lived off some of that Seattle talent. I
Yeah.
think they've had some talent come from Seattle before, so I think they'll recruit well. And Coach Musselman, his energy and his knowledge of the game, I think they're eventually going to get it together. And his energy is infectious, so he'll be able to bring energy to the Galen Center, and those players will catch on. But having so many new players, people think when you start seeing all the signings, you got this
Yeah.
transfer. Yeah, you want that. That's big to give the alumni and everything. But you still have to put it together, and you have to get all those guys who are good at those other schools to come and sacrifice and some things so that you can become one unit and stay aligned. And that's not easy. And you're starting to see they've lost their last 3 games. They were in the Oregon game until the last 5 minutes, like you said, and those the type of games they'll win once they get aligned, once that continuity gets there and leadership and guys knowing their roles. You better pull those games out. You won't lose those games, and you especially when you're on the road. You have to win those games.
Yeah.
Those wins don't come easy in conference. So if you're up on a team like that, you have to close those games out. And I think as the season goes and they start to understand who the roles and guys and who's going to be the leader, especially down the stretch, and who's going to be the go-to guy and coach realizes who those guys are. He's still trying to figure out who those guys he's gonna go to down the stretch. They'll start to win those games. They got a lot of talent. They brought in a lot of talent. Got a good guard play. They're bigs to get healthy. I think they'll make some damage, with coaching, the way he coaches. They'll be a force to be reckoned with.
If I'm hearing you correctly, it don't sound like you want to put no money on this game tomorrow.
Well, you can't. When you're playing each other's school, it has to be done. Regardless of the team. So we can't. Either one of us. We can't back out of it.
So we got a little wage on this. What
we
have
to.
What we got? A shrimp po' boy, a bowl of gumbo.
Yeah.
We gotta go
Pot of gumbo or whatever.
We'll
come up with something. We can't. This game cannot happen without having something on it. That's the rule.
All right. Well, let's put a 30-inch po' boy on it. Some broad and baked, some gumbo, and some beignets. Let's just do the whole thing, baby.
The whole meal.
Whoever team lose, that's who got a treat.
That's the treat.
Sure I'll
Absolutely.
See you at home for Mardi Gras doing the summer.
You got it. You got it. I'll be waiting.
All right, Rob. We got about 4 minutes left, man. I wanna fast forward a little bit and talk about your NBA career because I don't think I really know the story about how you got picked up by the Portland Trailblazers, but for our viewers out there, Robert was undrafted. I was undrafted. Avery Johnson was undrafted. I think Jaren Jackson was undrafted. Damn, everybody that made the NBA from New Orleans, a lot of us were undrafted. But Rob, just talk a little bit about how you end up getting with the Portland Trailblazers in your summer league experience, because I think you had a pretty interesting deal with the summer league that used to take place at Loyola Marymount back there. Just share that story a little bit with the fans.
Well, I know Coach Rav had been telling everybody I could play. I don't know if anybody was listening. He was telling everybody I could play, but nobody obviously believed them. But I got a phone call to come into LA to do a camp. I had left and I did a camp. And while I was there, I was still going over to the school and I was getting these messages. And the messages was from JKLA radio station in LA. I didn't know what they were calling me about. The radio station radio station in LA is like the Q93 of New Orleans. It's one of those. So I finally answered the call, and the guy said they were putting a summer league team for the radio station, and they wanted to enter the team into the LA Summer League. Now, it wasn't the Magic or the Bulls or anything. It was the radio station. You were
playing for a radio station team.
I was playing for a radio station, man. So I said, man, at first I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm not trying to be on the morning team or anything like do sports. I was like, I'm not trying to be on the radio. I didn't know what they wanted. So it ended up being an invite to play on that team. And we played. Our first practice was on the back of Loyola Marymount on the tennis court. Like that's like on the back.
Outside,
like we don't
outside.
care. You're outside. You don't even have any gym time.
Gym.
You're outside on the back court. And we played, and the guy, and his name is Clay Mosier, put together how he wanted to run the offense, and we did everything. First game, I have 21, 6, and 6. Clay said, okay. He said, I figured out what we have. From that point on, we were playing at 8:00 games, 9. We started beating everyone. Now we're playing at 7:00. Now you understand when you're in summer league, the later the game go, that means more people. All the scouts are in the building. That's prime time. We went from 8:00 games to the 6, 7:00 games. And I ended up being MVP of the summer league, 26 points a game, 9 assists, MVP of the summer league. And Coach Rav was still working. I remember on the court, a guy that Coach Rav had talked to before, I think he was a player of his, former player, Brad Greenberg, for the Portland Trailblazers, walked onto the court and offered me to come to the veteran camp for the Portland Trailblazers on the court. And I didn't know. I was like, yeah, I didn't know what it was. I was like, yeah, I know it was the Portland Trailblazers telling me they wanted something. I don't know if they wanted me to sell tickets for something, but they said it was the Portland Trailblazers. I told them, yeah, we could talk and exchange numbers. And eventually I went to camp with the Portland Trailblazers, who at the time it was no G League. It was no two-way contracts. You either made the 12-man roster or you didn't. And they had all their contracts.